Welcome to my channel. Today we have a super exciting thing to review. This is the new Naked Cyber palette. This is the most excited I've been about a Urban Decay product in such a long freaking time. But I mean, like, who could say no to this packaging? I mean, like, it is so freaking cool, and the shimmers in this palette are just absolutely freaking amazing. I don't have any of my old Naked palettes, but for some reason I feel like this is a little bit thicker than I remember. I mean, I feel like the Naked 3 was like this thick, but I don't remember the other ones being this thick. It could be my memory playing with me. And even the outer box that it came in is super cool, and it has a regular, I feel like every Naked palette has this on the back of it, but this is very true to color. All of these shimmers that are like duochromes are so cool. So I've been dying to put this all over my eyeballs, so let's get into the swatches. This is $49, typical Naked palette price. Does have a dual-ended brush in here, and I don't know if it's me or I haven't used an Urban Decay product, eyeshadow especially, in a really long time. The shimmers seem like they would do pretty good. The only matte in here that I'm impressed with is Bite, which is the dark burnt orange one. The other matte shades that are a bit lighter, Virtual and Gadget, didn't impress me at all. It took me a while to build them up in the swatches, but it's been a long time, so I'm ready to get into it. And I don't use any primer or anything with my swatches, so maybe the shades will turn out a little bit different on my eyeballs with a primer. I know a couple of people had some issues that this palette didn't have a lot of mattes in it, but a lot of the reason why I got this palette is because I've been obsessed, as you guys probably know, with liquid eyeshadows, and I've been dying to find some interesting shimmers to use, because a lot of my day off that I'm not filming, I'll just slap one of these all over my eyes, blend it out and go. And I like to have this palette because it has so many unique shimmer shades in it that I'm very intrigued to use different colored bases with and just slap it on my eyes and go. So even though the price is pretty pricey, in my opinion, I do think for what I'm looking for, this palette is hitting the marks. I'm gonna go ahead and prime my eyes with my Anastasia Beverly Hills eyeshadow primer and zoom you guys in. All right, so we are zoomed in and ready to go. I don't even know where I want to begin with this palette. I don't even know. I like the shade Cyberspace, the shade Y3K, Override, and Electrode. Those are all calling my name. And I don't know if you guys noticed in the swatches, swatching this out, it seems a lot more like fall than I kind of thought, because looking at this, it looks really light, but with the duochromes, especially with these two, they do come off a little bit darker than it looks in the palette, especially with this like really light background. I'm also kind of curious to use this brush. I haven't used one of these dual-ended brushes in so long, but it seems really stiff. So I don't really know. Maybe this one. This one seems like a good brush that I could use with my liquid eyeshadows. I'm gonna take the shade Gadget, the light pink shade, first, and I'm gonna run this in like the front brow area of where my nose contour kind of goes into my eye. Right off the bat, this one is showing up a lot better with the eyeshadow primer than it did on my arm swatches. I'm liking it. I'm gonna take the shade Bite, the dark orange shade, with the dual-ended brush, test her out. I'm gonna put it on my lower lash line and kind of sweep it outwards into like a wing, really packing it on the lower lash line. On the Urban Decay website, there is like a promo picture with this palette of somebody that looks like they're wearing like the electrolyte shade all over their eyelids, and it just looks so freaking pretty that I'm just so excited to just, I mean, like, I love doing looks like this, but also doing looks where I can just put the shimmer all over my eyes and just call it a day. I'm so excited to do a whole monochromatic look like that. Now I'm gonna take the shade Virtual, which is kind of like a peachy shade, and I'm just gonna lightly blend this kind of outwards into my temples, adding a nice little shadow, since the majority of this look is gonna be with the shimmers. I mean, honestly, I could just leave this look like this, but let's start getting into it. Let's take Cyberspace. I'm super excited to take this one. It's like a pinky green duochrome, and I don't know if I should use it wet or dry. I might go ahead and use it wet because I really want it to stand out. So I'm just gonna wet the shadow a little bit. I'm just gonna place it. Whoa. Do you guys see that? I think Cyberspace might be my favorite one in the palette. Duochromes always get me. It is having a bit of fallout, even though I am spraying it wet. I can feel it kind of flaking off on my face. All right, so for that one, I just did the inner corner to like the middle of my eyeball, and I really hope you guys can see the duochrome. And then I'm gonna take the shade Override, which is like a magenta, but it also has some like the same greeny shimmers in there as Cyberspace. And for this one, I'm just gonna kind of follow that wing a little bit. Ooh, I didn't use that one wet, and definitely the next time I use this palette, I'm probably not gonna do my face makeup first. Ooh, I'd be very careful blending this out. I was kind of trying to sweep, and as you guys can probably tell, it like the shade really blends out in like 2 seconds. I'm gonna take the shade Static, and I'm gonna just put this in the center. These shades are a little bit finicky. Like, I don't know if you can tell on this eye, like right when I place the brush, it kind of just, the glitter stays where you initially place it, and it doesn't really want to move all that much. But I mean, with all these duochromes and glitters, like, it's so pretty, but it is a little bit of a trickier shadow to play around with, and I'm getting a ton of fallout. I'm gonna go back in with the shade Bite, that brown or the orange shade again, and further kind of fix up that wing that I did earlier. And then taking Metadata, and I'm gonna highlight my inner corner with that one, since we got so much going on the lids. I'm gonna let you guys get a good look of what's going on. I'm gonna finish the rest of my makeup up, and I'll give you guys some of my final thoughts. All right, and this is the finished look. I did try and go a little bit heavy with the blush to kind of blend in with the like winged liner, but I really like how it turned out. I do want to play around with it a little bit more and see how the duochromes look over top of my various shades of liquid eyeshadow. I think they're gonna come out super cool. As far as this look goes, of learning about the shades and how it performs, I wish I would have upgraded the formula a little bit more, because I feel like they're still kind of under par with their formula, even though the packaging is really cool. The mattes came out really well. A couple of the shimmers did have the fallout even when I wet them, and they're a little bit finicky to play with, but I do like how the look turned out, and I am definitely gonna keep it, and I love it. Even though it's a little bit finicky, I just love that there's such a cool palette in my collection, and just a whole fun palette of fall neutral-ish duochromes. I feel like I'm just gonna have a bunch of fun playing around with it, and I'm dying to do a whole look with this shade Virtual and Electrode. I feel like that's gonna be such a pretty like coppery, just monochrome look. But that is it for this video. Let me know what your thoughts were in the comments. What's your favorite shade out of the palette? Definitely follow me on TikTok and Instagram. I'll be posting some other looks that I'll be doing with this cyber palette. But that is it for this video. If you guys want to check out my last video, it'll be right over here for you guys. This video will be suggested to you by YouTube, and my face will be right here. Click on it and subscribe to my channel.